Hello creative friends, I hope this finds you well. I have been doing good for the most part, although I have to admit that I've had ups and downs since the beginning of March, like pretty much everybody else. Of course, my go-to in times of stress is always creativity. Lucky for me, that is also how I make a living, but even though I have that privilege, it can also create a burden. Because creativity, as most of you know, doesn't always come easy. And when that happens, it creates all kinds of negative and loud thoughts. And that creates obstacles, which leads to a lack of productivity, and in my case, a lack of content for my work. A few days ago, I read a quote in a magazine called Happiness. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but that's how it's written anyways. And it resonated with me. It was one of those days where I couldn't shut down the negative vibes in my head. And I knew I had to find a way to get through that because I needed to produce something. I needed to produce anything. So I decided to take a methodical approach. That's good old type A, a friend I can always rely on. Usually that leads me to organizing, cleaning, but none of these would be of help if I wanted to get any painting done on that day. In this video, I'm going to share my tips on how I was able to get back on track and clear my mind to allow creative flow. And depending on your style or personality, these tips will vary for you. Basically, what I want you to pay attention to is the questions you need to ask yourself. And if it helps, jot them down and keep them close to your creative space, just like I did. What color combination should I use? I found this to be a very good place to start because it reduces stress. It reduces the guessing game, therefore it reduces the stress. So choose colors that you know well, colors that you're familiar with and that you've experimented with. So for me, neutrals, blues, and of course gold. They've become my best friends, and so I decided to use those in this painting. Don't get attached to the green, it will go away. I decided it didn't go well after all, and I can break the rules because that's my painting. Question number 2, what is my go-to approach? What are you most comfortable with? In my case, it's always been painting intuitively, starting without a plan, splashing a bit of water, dropping blobs of paint around, watching them travel within the puddles, how they blend into each other. I've also been known to use a less gentle method of knocking the block of paper on my desk to create those beautiful drips. I did that. For others, it might be that the approach needs to be more planned out. Maybe sketching helps or deciding on a theme. Just remember, this is your own personal creative journey, and there are no wrong answers. Question number 3, what makes your heart sing? Well, It probably is going to come as a shocker to you, but for me, it's doodling. But I didn't know how to add the doodles to this because the background is, I don't know how to describe the background, but it's feathery. The colors are all blended into each other. It's very loose. And to me, doodles are a little bit more structured, or at least crisp, clean lines. And I had no idea where to start. And then I remembered as a kid, my cousin and I used to draw a squiggly line on a piece of paper. I'm sure you've played like with this game before, but we would draw a squiggly line and then pass it to the other person to finish the drawing. And usually, you know, we used to draw things that were pretty goofy. And that brought a happy memory in my head. And I thought, okay, this sounds like fun. Why don't I try that? So that's exactly what I did. I took a marker and I drew a squiggly line across the paper. And I tried to remain as loose as possible and act quickly. That way it didn't give me room for overthinking it. Where and how to add the doodles. Oh yes, that's where it gets dangerous because I tend to overthink things, and that usually results in no action at all, and that's usually where I get stuck. So not a comfortable place. And then I remembered an older video of mine where I had an aha moment. Instead of trying to think of the entire painting all at once, I focused in a small area. I picked out a spot and I added things to that small space, just that small area. The rest can wait. It will come to me. And this is where I started adding weight to the lines and giving them a bit of dimension. And then I started seeing shapes that I could bring forth, that I could doodle in. Of course, all this with an interruption from gold. You know, I didn't mind. Because gold is my trusted friend, and I usually let it do what it wants to do. After all, who am I to argue with gold? Do I experiment or do I want to stick with familiar? Am I free enough to explore or do I just want to zone out today? Don't get me wrong, I'm all for experimenting and progressing. I've mentioned this in the past, experiments is what makes you grow. But sometimes you just need that comfort zone. Sometimes you just gotta put the experiments on hold in order to get back on track. Kind of like a reset button, if you will. And my comfort doodle zone has always been dots and lines, so I stuck with that. So, my creative friends, this is how I approach this piece. It saved the day, and I will remember that method the next time I'm stuck, because it isn't always about reinventing the wheel. As long as you get the wheel moving forward, the progress will come. And sometimes you just need something simple, or being simple in your approach. The final painting might not look simple, but at least the method with which you are moving forward is familiar, therefore simple to you. I hope this video was helpful. It was certainly helpful for me to go through that process with you. I've actually written these questions down and I pinned them to my board next to me so that I can refer to them whenever the loud voices get too much or when I'm not in the creative flow. I want to wish you all a wonderful and creative week ahead. I've already mapped out mine. I'm very proud of that. And it includes drawing and painting in my sketchbook every day, which I'm super excited about this because it's been something that I've always wanted to do for a long, long time at least. And I have finally stuck with this daily practice for the past 2 months now. And this will make my job a lot easier because every month I do a sketchbook tour to my Patreon supporters at the $10 level. Yes, $10 level and plus. And the joy of finally having good and abundant content for them makes me super happy. So in case you're curious about supporting my art in a financial way, it is on Patreon, and the link will be in the description below, as well as all the supplies I use for this painting/doodling. Thank you all so very much for watching. Please stay safe, healthy, and creative, and I will see you soon.